Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here today to give you my quick review of Fuji's newest medium format camera. And this is the GFX50S Mark II. So essentially what they have done is they've combined elements from two of their previous models. The new camera body that was first designed for the GFX100S, but this time they've put in the older sensor from the GFX50R into this, so a 51 megapixel rather than 102 megapixel sensor. And so you've got a camera that they, by combining those two elements, has allowed them to offer it at what is, I think, the most affordable medium format price point ever of right under $4,000 US. That makes the camera a serious configuration for those that might be attracted to the idea of medium format but don't have the huge budget that it often requires. And it also makes it an alternative to many full-frame cameras as well. And so is the GFX50S Mark II a camera for you? That's what we're going to try to discover in today's quick review. But first, a word from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Phantom Wallet, the minimalist, modern wallet that sets you free from a bulky traditional wallet while also making it easy to access your cards and money when you need them, thanks to their unique fanning mechanism. Visit phantomwallet.com to check out their unique sizes, styles, and finishes that span from aluminum to wood to carbon fiber. You can even customize your wallet with new accessories like a money clip, cash holder, ID display, and even the Chipolo tracking integration if you're the kind of person who loses their wallet. Use code DUSTIN15 for 15% off when you're ready to check out. The Fujifilm GFX50S Mark II is the latest entry in Fujifilm's medium format lineup. Like other GF cameras, the GFX50S Mark II utilizes Fuji's 44 by 33 millimeter sensor size, which is smaller than the larger medium format sensors found in Hasselblad and Phase 1 backs, but is nearly 70% larger than traditional full-frame sensors. As the name suggests, this is Fuji's lower resolution 51.1 megapixel sensor, though it has been housed in the GFX100S's body, a nice magnesium alloy body that is dust and weather sealed, and I find feels really great in the hand. The body dimensions are 150 millimeters wide by 104 millimeters tall and 86.4 millimeters deep. The body weighs 900 grams with battery and memory cards inserted, making it very usable for everyday use. There is a 3.61 million dot viewfinder with a 0.77 times magnification, unfortunately a little lower than the 0.85 times magnification we once saw. There's also a large 3.2-inch touchscreen that has a 2.36 million dot resolution. It can be tilted in multiple directions, making it usable even when shooting in portrait orientation. Touch capability is limited, however, with no main menu navigation. The Q menu can be navigated by touch, and there is some touch-to-focus capabilities, though responsiveness is somewhat limited. There are a variety of physical controls on the camera, though surprisingly fewer than some of their APS-C bodies like the X-T4. I found I missed the dedicated exposure compensation dial. There's only one dedicated mode dial along with two wheels that can be programmed to different functions and can be clicked in for an additional function. Most buttons can be customized to your preference, and I recommend that you spend some time setting up the controls to what works best for you. A switch allows you to change between movie and still setup on the fly, though video capabilities are somewhat limited here. I also like the dedicated switch that allows you to change between single AF, continuous AF, or manual focus. The left side houses most of the ports and includes both mic and headphone jacks, a USB-C and micro HDMI port, along with a flash sync port. There's also a remote release port near the memory card compartment on the right side of the camera. There are two UHS-2 compatible SD card slots there, and on the bottom is a battery compartment that takes one NP W235 battery, which is rated here for 440 shots. The top LCD screen is large and easy to read and retains a passive display even when the camera is off. The 50S2 has a very effective 5-axis in-body image stabilization system that is rated up to 6.5 stops. Autofocus is limited to 117 contrast AF points, and video specs are weak, offering only 1080p at up to 30 frames per second.
The trade-off is this is perhaps the cheapest MSRP ever seen on a new medium format body at only around $4,000 US.
And so a lot of interesting things here as a part of the body, and I will just add to that that I strongly prefer the feel and the ergonomics of this body over the GFX100 that I reviewed about a year ago. This is definitely one that suits those of us that have something less than the hands of a giant, and so I just find that it feels really great in the hand. And ergonomically, after I spent some time customizing and setting it up, I got a camera that was, friendlier to use than the GFX100 was. So in this process of delivering a more affordable alternative, there are some things that have been lost relative to the GFX100. The first of those is that we have regressed to a more primitive autofocus system. And so rather than the phase detect autofocus system that we saw on the GFX100 or 100S, we have a more primitive contrast AF system here that only has 117 contrast AF points. You're probably going to find it to be much slower to focus, much less confident in a lot of situations, and unfortunately it just basically is not going to do things like video focus pulls with any kind of effectiveness. And I spent a very painful time trying to run my standard test of trying to move between one focus point to another with very, very little success. I also found that in low light there was a lot of hunting, and I had difficulty actually locking focus, and even using something like IAF is just far less intuitive than what we have come to expect from many cameras. So it took a little bit of patience out in the field to get the results that I want. So know that if you buy this camera, you're going to have to be a little bit more deliberate about the autofocus process than what you might be with some other models. I was able at the end of the day to typically get the result that I wanted. It just took me a little bit longer to get there. As typical, however, there are a lot of positives to be found on the image quality front. And in doing my test, I did comparisons with the similar resolution Sony Alpha 1, 50 megapixels there as well. And the price point of the full frame Sony is actually higher than what this camera was. And when I did various things like testing dynamic range, high ISO performance, things like that, I found that unsurprisingly, that the medium format sensor was just a little bit better in both of those metrics. And it gives really, really clean results, and there's something very unique about the overall image quality that is hard for smaller sensors to match. That includes those very smooth gradations of color, and so I found at higher ISO less blotchiness, in some of what should have been the even tones. And even at higher ISO, I just found that there was less noise, less rough looking pixelation. And so some really strong aspects of the sensor. Now, I wasn't as impressed with this as I was with the 102 megapixel sensor. In some ways, that feels really, really special, while these days 50 megapixels is a much more attainable figure that's even surpassed by some full frame models. And so while I think that there is some advantage to this sensor over a full frame sensor, it's not all that big, and it's unlikely that you're going to see much of it in real world use. But at the end of the day, you can get some amazing, amazing images out of this camera. And so that kind of brings us to our conclusion. This is a camera that has some strengths, and it definitely has some weaknesses. And you have to be aware of those weaknesses and willing to accept them in order to achieve that great image quality. But that great image quality comes at a lower price point than we've ever seen for medium format, at $4,000 US. And so if you are someone that cares more about the end result than the process, then the GFX50S Mark II might just be the camera for you. I'm Dustin Abbott, and if you want more information, you can check out my full-length definitive video review. Check out the text review if you prefer the written word, and you can find that in the description down below. There's also links to an image gallery, so you can check out more of the amazing photos that a camera like this is capable of achieving. There's also some buying links there if you'd like to purchase one for yourself, along with linkage to check out our new channel, Let the Light In TV, to follow myself or Craig on social media, to become a patron, to get some channel merchandise, and of course, if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and let the light in.